focuses just on her eyes as she looks to the right. And the camera does that, but it doesn't look quite right. And you're like, camera, can you do that again? It's like, no, I'm doing a wide shot. That's what I'm going to do.
Or please deposit 1,000 more credits.
Speaking about a vending machine, that's a vending machine, man. That is a very hungry vending machine.
A slot machine, right? Because you don't get
the money. It is a slot machine.
It's a slot machine.
Imagine a vending machine where you threw money in and it doesn't give you a number to pick. It's just going to pick one. Yeah. And you're like, no, I wasn't looking for condoms. I really wanted the energy bar.
Yeah. Welcome to another CG garage where the monstrous moon shines. We're building new Hollywood like in 1971's prime. From authors' bold dreams to AI's fever dream, where tech meets the silver or LED screen. Pixels and passion are pipelines unknown. Two hosts, one show on a deadline post.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the CG Garage. This is episode number 542. Before I get started on what this actual episode is, I have a request. Today, that I'm recording this intro, happens to be my birthday, and I would like a birthday present from you guys, the listeners, if possible. This might seem like clickbait. Let's be honest, it is clickbait. Anyway, just go to youtube.com/@CGGaragePodcast and go to this episode and go to the comments section and wish me a happy birthday. While you're there, make sure and like and subscribe to the podcast. That's the clickbait part. Nonetheless, it would really make my birthday, and I would love to have you guys do that. And please let other people know about it. All right. Refuge VFX, really great company. They are out of Portland, Oregon. We talked to Fred Ruff and Alex Theisen. Alex and I worked together at several companies over at Sway and at Digital Domain. The last project we worked on was actually 47 Ronin. But yeah, Refuge does some incredible work. We talk about their recent work that they did on Fallout Season 2. And as of this podcast coming out, they actually released the next season of One Piece, which is really exciting. We also talk about Shogun. They do some great work, and it's really, really cool to see what's going on with them, especially their perspective being slightly outside of Hollywood in Portland, and sort of what their thoughts are about the visual effects industry, about AI, and a bunch of other things. So really great to have them. Okay, in terms of events, I will be at NAB in April. Hopefully, I'll be able to see you guys there. I would love to see you there. And in terms of the podcast, you guys can follow us at cggarage.com. You can also send us an email if you have suggestions. That's podcast@cggarage.com. We're also, as I mentioned, on YouTube, youtube.com/@cggaragepodcast, youtube.com/@cggaragepodcast. But for now, please enjoy episode number 542 with Alex and Fred.
This episode of CG Garage is sponsored by CenterGrid Virtual Studio. Wondering why you went to film school just to be stuck managing hardware lifecycles? CenterGrid delivers end-to-end GPU-accelerated cloud workstations built specifically for VFX and creative production, with flat, predictable pricing and personalized support from people who actually get your workflow. Plus, CenterGrid is TPN Gold Shield certified, so your studio's security is locked down. Check out what Virtual Studio can do for your pipeline at cgvirtualstudio.com. This episode of CG Garage is sponsored by Kitbash 3D, one of our favorite tools and an essential tool for 3D artists everywhere. With the largest library of cinematic quality, production-ready 3D assets, Kitbash 3D ensures that your studio has the tools to build stunning environments quickly, efficiently, and at scale. Design detailed worlds in a fraction of the time without compromising on quality. Head to kitbash3d.com and use the code CGGarage at checkout for 10% off any kit. Again, that's kitbash3d.com, code CGGarage.
Well, Alex, you've been on before, haven't you?
No.
You've not?
No.
The debut.
I thought you've been on before. Well, at least you've
Long-time listener, first-time interview.
Oh, thanks, Alex. Thanks, Alex. I remember you. You've been by our office in Culver City when I was there. Yeah. Okay. So it has been a long time. So how are you doing, man?
I'm well. I mean, how long have you had the podcast going now? It's got to be 10 years, right?
It's 12 years.
12 years. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. You guys are going to be well in the 500s in terms of episode number.
Yep. Cool. No, I'm doing good. I mean, I came over and
Oh, you guys are? Well, good. I want to get into Refuge for sure.
Well,
but
there's a perfect segue. I mean, I came over here like almost 7 years ago now. It'll be 7 years in June. And started working with this guy, Fred, a little VFX boutique out of Portland, Oregon, of all places.
Yeah.
Why does it exist? I don't know. You have to ask Fred, like, why he ended up here.
Yeah. How did you end up there, Fred?
Well, I used to work in the Bay Area at Autodesk for years, and
right.
I got this dream job early in my video game career to come on board for Autodesk and travel the world and demonstrate the software tools that Kinetics was making at the time. So this goes back quite a ways. And that was kind of a cool job. You got to meet a lot of people in different industries, video games, film and features and television, and kind of see all different kinds of stuff. I remember going to I went to New Zealand to demo to a group of people that were doing God, what was Alex is going to remember, it was Xena Warrior Princess.
Yeah.
And I think there was a Hercules series by the same company. So I went to South America, to New Zealand. I handled mostly North America, and that was a great opportunity. It was a lot of fun. And I really it dug into my technical side of what I liked about computer graphics, and so eventually I tried to work my way into the development team, and I managed to do that. And I became the product designer for 3ds Max for a few years. And then we spearheaded a next generation product that never saw the light of day.
What was that?
It was codenamed, I guess I could talk about it now. I'm not going to get sued or anything. It was codenamed Nitrous, which is the product name that we came up for. And we were basically taking what the original Yoast group did for 3ds Max and kind of rebuilding it as, a more modern piece of software.
Gary Yoast has been on the podcast, by the way.
Has he? Yeah. I don't doubt. He's super retired and watches wild now and stuff like that. It's so different.
He's a true hippie living up in the mountains in the Bay Area. So
I know, it makes me wonder what I'm going to do when I'm retired. Am I going to do something just as kind of crazy and not the same as what I'm doing now?
Yeah.
But anyhow, so I ended up on that team, and after some reorganizations in the company, they were like, why are we making a product to compete with our existing products? And they cut that team off and just kind of severed us off, and then started to purchase, Maya and Softimage, and did their whole plan going forward. But it was kind of the best years of my life, and it peaked me out as working with an engineering team and understanding the approach to building software again back in that time. And it was really awesome. So I kind of ended that part of my career, and I kind of rebooted myself. I ended up in Portland, Oregon, doing work at a local stop motion shop and kind of building out their CG department and stuff like that, which is really fun. But when I found this one job came to us, and we were not.
Which stop motion shop? Because there's only one that I can think of that was in Portland, Oregon.
Well, you'd be surprised.
Actually, originally it was Will Vinton Studios. That's not where I worked, but they spun off. Will and Vinton spun off a lot of smaller shops.
Yeah.
I was at one of those shops.
They're the California Raisins guy. That was what they were most famous for. Yeah,
exactly. And Will Vinton had a lot of influence on those. If you notice the characters he has, they all have white gloves.
That's true.
Well known. So I was at a small shop that spun off of those guys, and we landed one VFX job, and it came into town, and someone threw me the creative and said, do you want to bid on this? And I was like, yeah, it's so much more fun than doing these weird, commercial jobs and selling maxi pads,
Apple cereal,
cereals and stuff. We were doing, it's some advertising. It's not like you're like, oh, I'm in this for the Mucinex. I love that brand of nasal spray. That's not why you're in the business, right?
Hey man, Alex and I did that for years.
But very few little kids watch TV and they see the Mucinex ads and they're like, I want to be a filmmaker. This is it. This is where I want to be.
What are you doing? So that kind of so I saw this VFX thing and I was like, yeah, well, of course we should bid on this. And I remember I've told this story a couple times. I was like, I did this pitch and I shot, we had cameras. So I shot some stuff and we did this pitch and I looked at it and it was terrible. It was completely a complete failure. And I was like, God, this really sucks. And luckily, I think the boss was on vacation or something. So I had a chance to kind of redo everything. And I kind of changed my tune. And I was like, all right, let's imagine there's a story behind this. I mean, instead of one test shot, we went to 2 test shots. And I actually shot with a guy named Josh Cox, who actually still works with us now. And
Awesome.
we shot this little scene, and we kind of had the more intent. And we took it as a story, and it worked. It actually made a lot more sense. It made the shot make more sense. We threw some audio on it, and we did this test. And I honestly, like 2 years later, after I worked with that client for a while, he showed me all the original tests, and they were all terrible. Like, I was actually, our terrible test was not that bad, but rethinking it and coming at it a second time, we actually probably won that job because of that little test that we did it with, a little 2-shot kind of moment that really had some good intensity. And like you said about stories, like we really thought about it as a story, not as a test shot, and that broke. So we actually landed that job for that small shop. And after about 1 season, I was kind of trying to do more at that studio, and they weren't really into that. I guess I had more aspirations than they really wanted. So eventually I quit, and I said, I'm going to leave here. I'm going to do my own thing. I also had just unlocked a new superpower, which was like, I was in the early days of getting Amazon servers to work for me at home. So I had come up with this really early, like, oh, I can use an Amazon server. I can install software on it. I can render on it. And I actually used like Dropbox. This was, again, early days. And I actually like started up 50 Amazon machines and was Dropboxing renders back to my house, which was, a little ahead of its time at the moment. So I kind of unlocked.
Was it expensive at the time too? Like,
it was still reasonable. I mean, like, cents per minute kind of thing. And as you're doing these quick renders, it made a lot of sense. That was terrible pun. I didn't do that, but it made a lot of sense at the time. And I was like, wow, I can unlock this. So I was talking with somebody else who was like, hey, we need to render a whole bunch of stuff. And I was like, I think I could help you with that. So I was looking at like, what can I do? I want to produce more. I want to supervise. Where I'm at is very kind of constricting my growth. So I basically quit, and that show supervisor was like, hey, if you put a small team together, I'll give you some shots on the show you were working on. And that's how Refuge was born. I grabbed 6 guys that I knew were freelancing, and we crammed ourselves into an office not much bigger than this office right here.
CG garage, if you will.
Yeah. And it was, smelly and sweaty, and it was kind of like we were making it work, and it worked. It actually worked. We actually, got that. It wasn't really a contract. We had to always bid every episode, but the guy liked working with me. And that's when I realized, this is about relationships. I can help him out by putting a small team together. And we started doing that. It was, at the time, 22 episodes regular TV. So we would probably get about a third of those episodes for that first season. So it was enough to keep a team together and put some machines together. And we just slowly grew from that for a few years until we had moved maybe twice and expanded and had a team of about 22 people. And then we kept going from there, and then we did a project. One of Alex's friends was asking him if he had like a studio he knew of. So Alex kind of heard about Refuge and was like, I don't know these guys, but I know they exist if you want to talk to them. And so we did a job with that guy. His name's Charlie. Toriaga. And it was great. We actually were working alongside of Tippett Studios and Aaron Sims Creative. They were also on the same job. So all of a sudden we were stepping up and doing these shots and, taking on more and getting files from other studios and finishing their work and kind of really service that first client great. So Alex was like, hey, you did a good job with my guys. We should have a conversation. And then that's when I brought Alex on board, and we started kind of, reaching out down to LA and making some travel arrangements and trying to book more work. And again, it started to work, What was some of those first jobs, Alex, that we kind of landed after that point?
It was that one, we were working with Lou Pecora on Legion was another one that we started working on. And
yeah, we love Lou.
Yeah. Has he been on the podcast?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Good. Yeah. He'll fill up that time easily.
Yeah.
Exactly. And for me, I was coming out of that same period that you guys were at DD, where the bankruptcy occurred. And like everybody.
That's right. You were at DD during the bankruptcy.
I was, yeah.
Were you working on the commercial side of things? Is that where you were? Or
no, I was working on 47 Ronin at the time.
Oh my God, that's right. You and I were on 47 Ronin.
And
I kind of walked away from that show.
Yeah. We were all everybody did.
Yeah,
everybody did.
Exactly.
And I got a call from Jody Madden one day, just asking casually like, hey, we might need to change some production plans. How much do you need the Florida group that we got out there? And I'm like, hey, we could figure it out if we, had to reallocate some of those resources. And I got off the phone and I turned to, I don't remember who, one of the TAs. And I was like, I don't know what's going on, but I think we need to get a duplicate of all the data that's over there. Just in
right,
case.
because there was like a signal that maybe the lines were going to get cut.
And Monday morning, the sheriff showed up with the padlocks on the doors and everything got shut down.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what was going to happen in terms of the company, of course. And, Ed was instrumental in getting DD out of the bankruptcy. But long term, owned by the Chinese now and the Indian, conglomerate, I was like, my best interests are just not going to be served here. And it was time for me to move on. That's how I ended up in Portland. Went to go work for White & Kennedy for a few years because I knew them from some of the commercial work at DD. And began outsourcing some of the CG stuff over to Fred and Refuge because we didn't have a CG pipeline. It was all flame finish kind of work that they were doing at the ad agency. And it was just a good rapport. And I realized like, oh, wow, Fred actually, like this guy really knows how to run a CG department. He really knows how to talk to clients. He really knows how to, sell the services that they have. And kind of like to the point of the test that he was doing early on, he recognizes the importance of story, kind of like you, Dad, you're a director. Chris, same as you. You guys are storytellers at your core, and you happen to have this tool called visual effects to do that. And I saw Fred doing similar things and discovered like he had a whole other business unit at that time doing story development, trying to get animated CG stuff off the ground.
For sure. Yeah. Well, I mean, because I was going to say, you guys are like Refuge. Like made me, especially going over your reel and going over your work. I was like these guys are present for like a change in how people watch and think of TV as an art form. And because like up until relatively, because I'm a huge fan of Shogun. Like I love the book, and then I saw the show and what you guys did with the show, and I'm just like, this is how can I say it? Like this is like watching a movie, really watching a movie at home now, which wasn't true even like 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And I feel like that when you were talking about like, it's like when you're doing the Mice and X commercials and everything like this, like that kind of stuff, it's on the VFX people to be the art involved in this, because the assignment itself is not bracketed by art. Like you're the art, and that's what's really going to sell it, is that creativity.
And it's hard, we constantly forget. Because you get into the polygons and the pixels and the subsurface scattering and the technical and the caches and the file formats and all. Like it's so easy to get into that mire because it really taps into one side of our brain that really likes that technical aspect. So I think that, especially right now for Refuge, we are going under another change currently where we're actually kind of growing in a time where VFX is probably not, so it's a little weird for us. But as we're kind of expanding our teams and getting a little bit bigger, I really have to remind everybody that like, you got to pick your head up and get to that next level, get to that story level and get to where that creative part is. I always tell artists, when you come on board, great. Like I used to say it to the kids that come out of art school, I'm like, great, you get to be an artist 10% of the time. And I'll tell you when, it's 10%, because the rest of the time you're going to do the storyteller's vision, and that's the person at the top. And for us doing a lot of the streaming stuff, it's the showrunner. And this is a different title too, which we really appreciate in the streaming medium, because the showrunner is not only in charge of getting the whole story out, but they're also kind of in charge of the budget too. They're held accountable. And that's not always true in the film medium, where the director wants what the director wants and
go off and do whatever they're exactly
interrupt and say, we can't afford that. And then there's this conflict. But in television, we get to all agree that it goes up to that showrunner, and there's really nothing other than that.
It's a strange sort of director-producer position. Like you have to be very conscious of what you're asking for when you're asking for it. Yeah, it's an interesting call.
So we, that happens every once in a while, and we have to remember as a team to don't get stuck in the mire and don't do shots. That's why, like a year or so ago, we kind of decided internally our mantra was we do sequences, not shots. We don't do shots. Lots of parts of sequences, but it was a way for us all to remember that, great, when you get the shot done, remember to pull out. And that's when you realize, oh man, those best couple of frames were in the handle. God, God, I should have known that. Now it's time to go back and fix that. Artists get stuck in that shot work so often, they forgot to look at the sequence and try to, sometimes that one little moment that you're like, oh, if I do the particle theory, it looks cool. Well, guess what? That's not the story right now. And sometimes you got to pull your head up and go, it's a good detail, but it's not really about that. What is it?
I think this is a beautiful point because not only has visual effects changed massively over the past few years, but like what audiences are so used to, like you're saying with polygons, et cetera, like they're so used to like high fidelity technical achievements that they're numb to that. Like they very much don't care about that. What they care about is the cumulative effect, the storytelling of what you're doing, and if that's affecting them or not. Not like when, in the late 90s and early 2000s, you could be like, I don't care how bad this movie is, as long as it has some crazy CG, then we can sell tickets. But like that's for my kids, like they could care less how shiny the robots are. Like it's all about
Daniel,
the
how
sequence.
old are your kids?
My youngest is 18 and my oldest is now 28.
I got an 11 and 8-year-old, and the favorite thing that they like to do is play Roblox.
Oh yeah.
And we're talking about, really low poly, whatever, but the gameplay for them is super engaging. And, we've seen the collapse in the gaming industry too, where, fidelity is king. And I think in a lot of ways, that's always been the high watermark for us in VFX is get that photoreal, quality of image. But it's really all for naught unless you're telling a story that
get the story
cares about.
Exactly.
It's amazing how many bad VFX are hidden by a good story.
If you watch the original Star Wars today, it's not that the effects hold up. The movie is still kick ass though. That's how.
But
that's
it's interesting you said that, Fred. I remember actually on Oblivion, we were working on Oblivion, and I did all the digi doubles of Tom Cruise fighting himself. Spoiler alert. And there were several of them where he looked really good in the handles, like you could really see like the perfectly right. And so I remember Joe was like, "Oh, but we like you could really see the two of them together in that frame that's in the handles." And he asked the editor to change the end. It's like he says it's a fight sequence. Like no,
it doesn't show a shot of it looking good. Discontinuity.
Like I say, like it is hard. You got to, we're at that low level of the shot work and the pixel work and all that stuff, and you really do got to remember and claw your way up to those decisions. Like I'm, and Alex will attest to this. Like I'm not afraid to go to a client and ask them to change the edit because if I think it really would help, I might not know the bigger picture, and I'll admit that, but I will ask. And a lot of people are scared because there has been a lot of authoritarian, like kind of supervisors who are like, don't fuck with this and don't fuck with that.
Sure.
I don't know if I should say that on the podcast.
You can say whatever you want.
But like that people that come up have been trained in this kind of military organization, which it kind of is. You want to respect the chain of command a little bit, but
absolutely,
you also got to not be afraid to ask. And that might get the person above you to go, well, I'll ask. And then you turn out, if you can make better relationships that way, I think it helps us as a company because we don't want to be just the guys that you write some text, you put it in a PDF, you send it off and you say, do this work on these shots. We want to engage. We want to get you on a call. We want to hear what the bigger problem is because sometimes we can solve it and even solve it without having to do the work. A recent show, they had some shots that when we watched the spotting call, I could tell that they wanted to do something, but they didn't know what to ask for. And I was like, you guys, you need to zoom into those shots and do some camera shake. And, the effects editor was like, well, this isn't my cut, but that's a good point. And let's bring it up to the main editor. And the main editor was like, yeah, I love that idea. Can the footage support that quality and that zoom? And we had more of a technical discussion and those weren't really VFX shots for us, but we were able to kind of offer some advice, change the story. I think we did like a burning tire. It was like a car scene that was just shot a little too wide. And I was like, no, you guys can zoom in. We can do a little up-res if you want. Let's add smoke here. Let's add a little vibration here. And we can, give a little more excitement. And like, I like to be able to offer that because I think that then they're going to remember like, oh, that guy brings something to the table when we work with them because just doing what you're told isn't always like, I mean, you want to do what you're told, but it isn't always the best.
Yeah,
and
so much of this is the result of and we all know this, having spent our careers in visual effects, the result of a broken business model, where everything is now piecemealed out as a per shot line item. And let me go to the vending machine and put a quarter in, and I'll get my visual effects out, and I'll put a couple more quarters in, and I'll get more expensive visual effects out, and so on and so forth. And as a discipline, we've been siloed into like, you're just the machine, you just kick product out. And in our hearts, we know like that's not the actual value that we're bringing to the table. We have a particular tool set that we're, experts in, and how do we become part of that team that is telling the story? And it's really what Fred's getting at. And, we can talk a little bit about Fallout and his experience.
We will, for sure. I do want to say, it was interesting. When I was bidding, right, and I was doing Mucinex commercials, I'm just going to keep using that as a reference.
And I've never done one. That was just an example. I've never done one.
We're going to use that as the generic
Did you guys
commercial.
do the pregnancy tester at DD?
Yeah. No.
Oh, damn. Oh, my God.
There was one that was, I remember my wife was joking about, there was one about a maxi pad and this like giant CG water hitting the maxi pad and filling it up. And
that's amazing.
I'm looking at that commercial.
Maxi pad one with the white gloves.
And my wife looked at that commercial and goes, that's on someone's demo reel.
Yeah, exactly, dude.
And I will tell you, I have done a maxi pad commercial. They have wings, they fly, they go on roller coasters, all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but my favorite part of is actually the bidding process. And to Alex's point, is because I often come up too expensive in terms of what they ask for, right? So what I would usually do is I would say, can we get in touch with the director? Because you usually get an RFP or whatever, right? And I get in touch with the director and sort of ask them what their intent is. And usually what they ask for is not necessarily what they really want, right? As you have this conversation, it's like, well, how about instead of doing what you asked for, we can try this instead, and that could either be better or cheaper or whatever. My favorite part is that's already establishes a relationship with the director and with the creative, just as Fred was saying, right? And therefore, sometimes they'll come back to you as like, no, I want to work with that person because they're going to be collaborative, right? And often at that point, your bid number has nothing to do with what's going to win the project, right?
Right. Well, I mean, what Alex is saying, the way the industry got sort of like siloed into different, like everyone does their own separate thing, and everything is, but once we started approaching VFX that way, you can see the general quality of VFX, especially on blockbusters, like go slowly down over the course of about 10 years. Like everything just turns into genericized, bland looking, uninteresting effects because the artistry goes out of it when you only attach it, when you only say like, okay, you guys do the specular, that's it, I don't want to hear anything else. And that's how you end up with movies that are no longer engaging in that way, and because of that, those movies make less money. And I wish that I wish that the studios saw, like, trying to force that genericizing pipeline onto storytelling is why they're losing money now.
And like, you guys can see how existentially this is going to become exponentially worse as AI really kind of takes over the process.
Well, the way that AI is going to be applied, let's just
the way they're trying to apply AI will make it much worse.
In some ways, this is a spicy answer, but in some ways, I look forward to a little bit smaller teams because, Daniel, as you're saying, like, you get into this point of like, there's so many people in the middle of this, and they've broken it down to this science of like, here is 722 shots, and they all have descriptions in our database, and they're going to be done this way. And the result is like kind of bland. And it goes back to like, when you lose the artist, when they don't care anymore why you're giving them a note, they check out, and it becomes, where do you want the couch lady? Which is an old example.
That's a perfect analogy.
Guys bringing the couch in, and put it over there, put it over there.
Right.
They don't really care anymore, and I think that's something we always talk about, because when you're working with a client, like, I don't mind if they don't see the version until it's 50. I don't mind that, because until it's ready for me to show them something that works for them in their cut, in their show, we should keep it internal and just keep developing until it's ready. Because once you start getting those notes, you're going to have a certain like amount of time before all of a sudden the notes become, I don't care what you want, I will just do the thing you want. And that's not where we want to get our artists. We want to have our artists hear some feedback, interpret that, and do that that plus maybe a little bit more. And
Yep.
as soon as they like, sometimes we get notes and it's like, hey, just so you know, are those the notes like we do those and you want the shot to be final? Or are those the like, that's the stuff I see and do more on your side? And I know those
Right.
clients now differently. I know one client that will give us a note and I'm like, never assume that's the end. They just want that taken care of. We can always plus it up, make it better. And then there's some clients where they're like, no, just do the note and that I think we're done after this version. And I'll take both of those, whatever makes them happy.
Right. Yeah, but all of this is like everyone working on a film or commercial, like always be filmmaking. Like the goal, the goal is always this. It's not to get the details, whatever the assignment was. It's to make sure that the final product is artistically overwhelming to its audience. Like that's the whole goal. And if people aren't all playing the same game, if everyone's not, it's like, it's great to have, a baseball team with like, here's this guy's an incredible pinch hitter. The rest of the team has to actually be playing the same game. We all have to be doing this if we're going to win the game. Because if you only have the superstars, then you'll get them famous and nothing else. Sure. And I think that this is when you bring up AI, like I think there's two directions with AI, because if you apply the corporate mindset to it, like it turns the toothpaste factory into a 100x toothpaste factory, which people don't want, but if it's something that you can say, these are tools that make me and my small team do more than we could have with 5 people, then it's useful. But only then. So it's always the artistic decision that makes you more successful. And I think that's where we have fallen down for many.
Daniel, you're hitting upon something that I think is going to become more and more and more important, is that you can do so much more with the small team, and with these tools, it becomes such a force multiplier. I mean, back in the day, Chris, when I was working over at Sway, and you remember those guys because you worked there for a while too, or that DD team that you ran, the Max team that did like the Thron teaser and what have you, like that was the first time that I had my eyes open to like, wow, when you have a small, capable team that's focused, they can do so much. And
that was exactly what happened with actually Oblivion, believe it or not, because
I remember that team.
Lisa Baru, as you remember Lisa, obviously, she told me like, we're forced to have to use Vancouver, but we don't have enough people in Vancouver. Let's see what we can do if we went super lean in LA.
Yep.
And I went super, super lean, and it was way better.
It worked.
Way better.
Yep. And those iteration cycles are faster.
As long as you can hire talent, you're okay.
And, to be honest, like that is what I saw when I started talking with Fred, was a team that was, singularly focused in that way and really, concentrated primarily on trying to find creature work to do opportunities, along those lines. I was like, well, let's take that same model, let's apply it to this company that shouldn't exist in Portland, Oregon, of all places, and let's run with it. And it's been really successful for us. And I think that, as some of these other tools really start to hit the production pipelines in the AI sphere, like it is an opportunity for smaller companies who have that kind of creative focus to be successful. I am not doom and gloom in that sense with what that future looks like.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you brought up like the way that Roblox works and how, like in the game sphere, like Roblox offers an enormous amount of interpersonal creativity for the people who engage with it, right? And when like the way that say AAA gaming has collapsed, right, is when you saw it, because as you said, like the idea of photorealism is the benchmark that we all have to approach. What you end up with is a lot of stuff that all looks exactly alike, and nobody and people numb themselves out to it. Whereas indie games, which are small teams, get to be creatively super expressive. And what it offers, and this happens with Roblox as well, is like it offers this personal connection to the people that are playing it. Like they feel like they're being seen and spoken to by creators, right? And having that kind of personal relationship with the art you're experiencing is really, really important to people, like tremendously so, And I feel like that when you see things, like when I look at, like when I watch, even I'm watching something huge like Fallout feels handcrafted. Like it feels like this is something that like somebody thought this was fucking hilarious. That's why they did it like this.
Right.
Like it doesn't feel cut and paste at all. It feels like this is like everybody on the team who built this bug thought that this was the maximal way to make this disgusting and hilarious. And it is. Or when I was watching Shogun, one of the great moments in TV history is watching people explode from cannon fire is absolutely spectacular. And like I've read the book like a million times. I'm watching it with my wife, and I was like, "Here it comes." She's not ready to see this.
None of us were.
Exactly. Like you can feel the fact when you can feel the fact that the people who made what you're watching were in love with what they're doing, you love it more. Like that's just good business. That's just good business. Good filmmaking is that's the entire center of it.
You know, both shows you're mentioning from Shogun and Fallout, they both have a tone for them that made them successful. And I got to say, like when you're doing a season 1 of any show, you're all running a little blind. And that was a little true on both those shows. You know, being in the VFX world, we don't always get a lot of context. We might get a shot or two on either end of a sequence, or they might show us something that's relative to the sequence. But, you know, often because of security reasons, like we don't even get audio and things like that.
Right.
So like I remember on Shogun, as we were trying to watch like some of the clips of the main guy, like I remember going like, wow, this is interesting. His delivery is so you know, like flat and like, is this gonna work? You know, we really had no idea. We were not really sure. And I'm gonna be honest, because that's who I am. I'm very honest. Then when the show came out and I watched like the first episode, I was like, wow, that works so well. It's like his character. He's the straight man compared to being in a world where you don't even understand anybody. He's just operating in this, like, this is my business.
Yeah, pure chaos all around. And this one dude is like, we're just doing it.
So strange. And it totally worked, you know? And then, you know, for Fallout, same thing, like from a show, like we're watching it and we're like, what is the tone here? Is it going to like campy? Is it supposed to be comedy? Is it trying to be real? And they did a really good job of threading that needle, because when you watch it, all three of those are true. It takes itself seriously. It is a little campy, and it is trying to be funny at sometimes, but not overly funny. It's not slapstick. And same thing. We were watching that going like, how is this gonna go? And then once you get into a second season, you know, Fallout, okay, well now we got the tone. We've seen 8 episodes. We know exactly about it. There's no worry about, you know, us knowing something that we shouldn't reveal to the world. So it makes it a lot easier to come into season 2 and kind of get the tone. Specifically on that was like, we did our big things were episode 1 and episode 8. We handled that massacre at Novak when they get in there. And since we've talked about it, I talked with Jay Worth, the VFX supervisor and producer on the show. We just saw him like last week. And I had to ask him, because we were working on a shot for these characters called the Cons. I don't even know if they mentioned their name in the show, but they're the group of marauders or whatever that got him. You know, they got Goggins strung up by his neck, and Lucy comes in and she's gonna, you know, they have this kind of negotiated plan.
Talk her way out of it. No, just
that
let
she
him go.
seems to be hesitant to even pull off. She's like, I don't know if I know we talked about doing this, but I'm not sure.
Exactly.
Totally funny.
It's a scene straight out of Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, right? It's like this is, it's absolutely hysterical. So
and one of those characters, they originally had, all right, we shoot the first girl, we shoot her in the face, and then we shoot the second guy in like the stomach, and he gets flown back, and they did all the viz for it. But the one thing that's great about Jay is that when we talked about it, he's like, listen, this is what we got to work with. Put something together for me. Like, it really is kind of like that. And you don't get that with every client. And that could be a blessing and a curse, because with the client that somebody already has the vision and they're not telling it to you, you could go the wrong way. But on this one, it's usually about like, do something fun, do something exciting, get it through, get it figured out, get it to look good, and then we'll talk about it. And we took that shot, and it was a slow-mo shot of the bullet going, and it wasn't a bullet, it was a grenade. It goes right in her face. They cut that from the show. They actually had a shot where you saw her face explode.
Oh, that it goes, I mean, you see the back of the head.
It was right on the front of her. And we went all the way down the road, and we had this grenade, and she's right there. And I go, I don't know, let's just have the grenade go right in her mouth, right? So again, you guys have never seen this shot. But the grenade goes right in her mouth. It swells open her mouth and then blows up and just peels her back like a pumpkin, with an M80 in it. And we planned this and we talked about it and we did all this.
Those are so much fun when you do things like that.
God, dude, if I'm ever directing for Fallout, I am definitely keeping that shot in. What are you talking about?
Well, so what happened is we sent it. It took a little while to get the information back because it had to go up the channels. It came back and they were like, new shot. We're giving you a new plate. We're going to give you a plate from behind her head and, keep what you had in some way. And I remember the whole team was like a little like they lost their attitude. They're like, oh man, we were working so hard on that. We were working so hard on that. And I had to coach them through it. I was like, listen, they didn't say they hated it, guys. It wasn't that they didn't like it. They're just changing the shot. So something else is going on. Let's let them figure it out. Yep. So we got the new creative, which was from behind. I go, let's do another pass. We did a quick rough pass with all the elements we had, which we got out really quickly. We sent it to them and they were like, great, take it to final. And that was it. And,
and it's so great. It's like the head behind the head shot with like it's a really nicely posed.
Yeah, and you could see him shooting in blurry from the other angle. Really and it's so quick anyhow, it passes. Yeah. So I had a chance to talk with Jay and I go, hey, you got to tell me like more about that story. Like, why did we switch that shot? And he goes, we just didn't hate those characters enough to show a woman getting shot in the face with a grenade.
Savor it.
That's okay. It was too aggressive. It was too offensive. So we just
can't just kill some random character like that. You want to save that kind of stuff for
like
when
if
you
she
really
shot
hate
the dog or kicked the dog, we definitely could blow her up in the face. But she didn't do anything that evil. So it came back to story. It came back to like it just didn't fit it was in the tone, but it was a little too much. And then he was like, and we're blowing heads up left and right. So we didn't need to see that.
Save it for the next one.
Yeah. I mean, at the same point, like I don't know the guy in Scanners whose head explodes either, but it's cool.
I mean, we did have two guys get pushed into a pool and they both blew to smithereens,
Just saying.
And that was cool. So, we didn't have to do it on her, but, again, it comes down to story. And working with them. In that case, it was very much like there was decisions happening at a top level that we were just waiting to hear back. And when we got that instruction, we went with it. The other one on 8, which I did mention before, I've already talked about this, but we on the rad roaches, it's the end of the season. The budget's getting close to being used up. Everything's been allocated. And when we got that sequence for the rad roaches, they were trying to cut around the roaches a little bit so the cost didn't go up. And we saw that right away. And we don't sit here and talk about every dollar when we're looking at shots. That's really not the team's job. That's the VFX producer's job on our side. And my animation supervisor, Jeff Riley, kept going like, what? Shouldn't we see a roach in this shot? And I was like, I know, but this is what they've put together. I think they just don't want to. We're running out of money in the show. We're on episode 8. We've allocated everything.
That's surprising because all I could see of that show looked just so expensive.
Well, that's the thing is,
true, man.
We're trying to hit what they want, but we did look at those shots and we worked on it for a week. We blocked the whole sequence and we still felt like it was not right and it was going to be obvious. So risking getting in trouble, I had actually blocked out a couple of the shots after we sent them the first version. And I blocked out 3 or 4 missing shots that really could have used a roach flying by or whatever. And we sent that off and we kind of gave them a backup plan. And we said, listen, we feel like these 4 shots should have roaches in it. We get the fact that we're at the cost level that we want to hit. And back to Alex and I going, Refuge isn't about shots, it's about sequences. We already got the budget for the sequence. We said, listen, there are some extra costs in here, but we really want to keep them down. We really want to help the sequence and we really want to do it. We have the team ready. Everybody's excited about it. We're going to link up all these shots. And we sent that off and I got like no response, which was like, uh-oh, did I just overstep my bounds? And am I, is it like, I'm pushing them to spend more money with us? And it was definitely well received. And after it was almost 2 weeks because there was a lot going on. You got episodes 1 through 7 open for the production team. And we're talking about episode 8 at the end. So after about 2 weeks, they came back and they were like, let's talk numbers. We totally agree with you. We showed it to the showrunner. We showed it to Jonah Nolan and everybody agrees that we probably have to have these shots in there. It's going to make the sequence more, concise. So again, it was like, let's work together. It's not about counting every dollar on everything. We got a good amount of work. Let's squeeze it all in at the same time and try to do that.
Yeah,
And
figuring out how to keep the
gotta be
creativity high. Yeah.
You got to be competitive
Absolutely.
that way. I didn't mean to interrupt, but like how else are we going to survive in a new age if we're not directly working and hearing our customers and working with them? I really do believe we're in an industry where it's not about the polygons, it's not about the tech, it's about the customer service and about how you work with them and being clear and all that stuff. So hopefully,
I think back to when I was a kid and I first got involved in movies in general. I fell in love with movies and like with say Star Wars. Like I knew the VFX crew that did Star Wars is like comparatively incredibly small compared to any other Star Wars film that came after, right? And I knew everybody involved, like everybody, like, it's just like Dennis Muir and like, these were all like legendary people to me, right? And I didn't realize how much like, it's like when I talk to my kids about the stuff that they love and like the movies they love, the shows they love, the games they love, like they talk about the people that do these things now the way that I used to talk about like Mike Pangrazio's matte paintings, and this kind of stuff. And I knew all that stuff. And it made me realize that there's a big gulf between those 2 points, like them being kids now and me being a kid then, like in between. Like it turned into studio blandness and we didn't know who those people were anymore. Like we didn't know who they were as artists anymore. And it was hand in hand with the movies getting worse, And when you can say like, Refuge does great stuff. They have huge, like really savvy, artful character to them. And I know these guys and what they do, like that is what makes it cool. That it's going to be cool. Like, and even like on Lord of the Rings, when say, Vlado talks about watching the making of Lord of the Rings more than Lord of the Rings, like knowing the craft of it and being out there with it is part of the joy of that, and feeling the joy of it in what you make is why it works so well. And I think that like with small studios and whether it's games or whether it's VFX or whatever, you're going to have the room to be more creative. And because it's more creative, it's going to support the product way, way better. And I think that that's the future that you guys are identifying. I
mean, in the future, AI, no AI, tools changing. I mean, you still gotta have people walk you through the process. Like, I don't believe that. I mean, if you're a YouTuber, you can do a lot of it yourself, and people do, and that's awesome. But at the bigger studio level, where there actually is a business and a timeline and there's money involved, they still want people to be involved. I don't think the editor's job will be to come up with the missing, those black shots and turn them into VFX in the end. Because a lot of people have said that. They're like, well, AI is going to get so amazing. The guy that's editing the film is going to do that. Or the guy, or the editor's gone too. And AI's editing. And now it's just a creator. Right. I'm like, I don't think so. We all have our jobs. There's politics. And
someone's got to be there to say that was cool. Like there has to be a job for that.
And someone has to walk you through the process.
And it's not just that. I mean, it's like people have been talking about how they're sick of superhero films, for example, right? Because it's all the same thing and it's very predictable. And there's no AI involved in that. But you know what? You're going to get even more of that if you start involving all the AI stuff. So people aren't going to go see them because it's just going to be the same crap over and over again. And people, I think the problem is that the studio executives, or the people that want to make money, let's just say, just think they're like, oh, I can just make more crap. Yeah, and I'm just going to make more money.
Right? No,
right. I feel like it's like Amazon or Etsy, right? Like,
right.
Like Amazon is like, you get anything you want, really cheap, gets to your house. That's fine. But when you're looking for like a gift for a person that's handcrafted, you can go to Etsy and get like some awesome piece of jewelry that somebody made. And you're going to pay a premium for it, but it's not going to break your bank. And it's going to be genuine. And I think people do like that. I mean, there's still room for a little bit of both. You're going to get your RAM. Maybe Amazon's not the way to get it anymore, but it's a commodity. But like, I think people do like that handcrafted. So no matter what tools you have, I mean, again, to be a business, we have to present ourselves to our clients to add value. If you could go to anybody, then I'm not going to get those jobs. And maybe I don't want those jobs. I want the jobs that we do get to kind of come up and help people and respect the chain of command, but also offer suggestions. Someone once told me that, like, as a leader, you never want to go in a room and tell everybody what to do. You want to go in a room and listen first, because if you listen, a lot of people will pitch their ideas. And the great part about being the leader is that you get to take any of them and run with them. like they're your own.
Yeah.
And everybody will love
exactly.
that because you listened to them. You took the best idea and you said, we're going to go that way. So I feel like, for us or for any VFX shop, that's really what you need to do is you need to give options. And we try to do that. And we don't always have the timeline. A show comes in and it's got a really quick schedule and they say, this is what we want. But I always try to push all my supervisors to say, come in fast, razzle dazzle right away. Give them options. Show them what it could look like. If they shut it all down and say, do what you're told, you know what to do from the next sequence. But if they're like, hey, that's kind of interesting, you've really excited us, there's a conversation here, then you can lean into that and you can get them engaged so they have a better experience with us in the end.
Yeah, because when you're from a directing point of view, it's like you hire great actors because you want them to provide you with options on the solution you're looking
POV.
for.
Right, you're not supposed to tell them how to deliver the line.
Yeah, exactly. Right? That's why, if you're saying, you're saying, if you give them a line reading, it means you failed as a director. You're just just fucking say it like this. That means you've run out of ideas and they've run out of ideas and everything is just this, But if you're working with Daniel Day-Lewis, you're not like, Daniel Day, let me tell you how to say this.
Maybe somebody did, because he doesn't seem to want to act anymore.
I drink your milkshake like this. But that's the deal. Okay, and else, can I ask you guys? There's a show that I loved that was canceled that you guys worked on. It was beautiful.
I know it.
The Peripheral.
Yeah.
The Peripheral. Loved the show, and the work was gorgeous. Can you just tell me anything about this? I don't get to talk about this. That's such a nice bit of work.
We did some really great stuff on that. Again, it was creative problem solving. We did this weird coid build out of nanoparticles that you couldn't see, but you'd have to see. And we did a whole thing in the beginning of the show. It was a sequence. I don't know if not the beginning of the show, but he comes into a world where these coids come up and they form these triangles. And we had this whole, it was back and forth on design. We really were kind of doing post-production design work for those characters because they were originally shot with silicone on their heads to keep the budget down.
Right.
And they had eye holes. And the plan was, we're just going to paint the eye holes. And eventually someone said, no disrespect, they were like, this looks like
Westworld
with the magic screwdriver, the British show.
Doctor Who.
Doctor Who. They're like, too much Doctor Who, which is very,
there's never too much Doctor Who, first of all.
But on the budget scale, they were like, we don't want to look like we're Doctor Who on the budget scale.
Right.
So they managed to peel off some money, and we had a good plan of attacking that problem with a new design. And we, again, work with them on all right, how many shots we got? Let's create an engine for this. Once we get the design done, we'll just process the whole series that same way. Probably the same way they're doing the nose with the ghoul and Fallout. It's get a system, get the cost to be what it wants so that you can do that for the whole show. So they did that. And it was cool. It was cool to kind of solve those problems. And I really enjoyed that show. It was a lot of fun.
It is such a gorgeous robot. Really, really stunning.
It was heady. I tried to read that book. It failed me.
Gibbs can be a steep wall to climb. But
I couldn't do it. But the show I thought was really well put together for that concept of traveling through time, really. And
the visuals were they were just next level in so many ways. And I feel like if that show had come out maybe a year from now, it would get the traction that
I know. It's a shame because it landed right when the strikes happen. And when that kind of big thing happens in Hollywood where they have these strikes, it's literally force majeure, and a lot of the contracts that they have can get killed. And they pulled that move on that just because there was a lot of uncertainty about the future of television and streaming, and things like that are going to happen.
Yeah. I have a question for you guys. Speaking of strikes, so I kind of want to see what your guys' take is on the massive amount of disruption that's going on in Hollywood. Obviously, we had this perfect storm of things that happened. We had the COVID, and then the strikes, and then we had, AI, and then bankruptcies, and so now you have Netflix that bid on a studio, ended up walking away, end up making more money walking away from the deal than they would have spent. Their stock went up 30+% by walking away from a deal. It's so they made like $150 billion by walking away. So what is this going to do? I mean, you guys do a lot of stuff in streaming areas, which is great. But that's the big part of where Hollywood is now. What's your thoughts on how this is going to affect everything that's going on?
I wasn't sure if Alex
That's a
wanted
lot.
to.
No, there's a lot to chew on there.
Yeah,
So that's a fact.
I call it, because I've been repeating myself for 3 years now. I was like, there were the strikes, and there was I keep wanting to say the .com crash, but it was the streaming bubble burst is what I call it.
Sure.
So it's like the strikes happened for a year and a half, and then everybody realized that not every network can make a streaming platform and make it actually make money. So
Right.
there was like a hype and a race that was going on where everybody was making a lot of content, and then the strikes happened. And then everybody went, wait a minute, is all this content we're making for whatever, particular streaming channel that we're going to put on a smart TV, is that going to work? And I think everybody started to go, no, it's not. We need to back up and kind of push these ones into this network. We need to sell on Netflix. We're going to sell on Amazon. Like, clearly Netflix, Amazon, and Apple were not going to give up that race, because they're the big players because they have all the money. But there was definitely a pullback in the amount of content. And I think Hollywood was like, wait a minute, we've made a lot. Or at least the tech companies were like, we've made a lot of content. Let's not just keep feeding it. Let's sit back. And they rested back, and that really hurt a lot of shops, VFX shops, and a lot of studios, a lot of, showmakers, like everybody. Nothing was getting made for like another year and a half. So it took about 3 years to get through this big cycle. And then it was like, okay, well, now everybody's caught up and they watch stuff. We got to start making stuff again. And the unfortunate part was that happened in the fall. I want to say it was probably 2024. And all of a sudden everybody's like, well, Christmas is coming. We're not going to shoot till the, next year. And then all of a sudden, all the shows started to line up again. And we saw that happen in this last 2025 year. Like all of the shows we're working on all landed at the same time. So they were all on top of each other. And that's, again, unfortunate for a studio like us. We're like, well, what do we do with all our people in Q2 when all our jobs are booked in Q3 and Q4? It's a little tough to run a business. We can't just put those people out to pasture, and just, be like, you're all fired until we have work again. I don't like to, I don't want to do that. But it's the reason why we have freelancers and contractors, because they will float from job to job to maximize their life. So that's, to me, kind of what happened. And now we're seeing a little bit of it coming back where, people are going for that second season and are shooting. And luckily now, after 1 year, the schedules are starting to slip a little bit so that we're not all overlapping. But I have a feeling this fall is going to be big for a lot of VFX shops. I'll tell you that right now.
Well,
This fall, you think?
Yeah.
I think
And
too, though,
movies have obviously, movies in general have definitely come back this year more strongly than before. And so I think that there is definitely a major upswing. But
I agree with that too. I think the films for a while, like the streaming was kicking ass on film.
Yeah.
Like films are just like not good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I'm not going to insult anybody, but there was a lot of bad movies going on, a lot of bad streaming movies, even like
100%.
blockbusters. And I agree. I think more recently, like I did see a lot of the more award-winning films this season, and was taken back how well they played out.
And they're still
like
Sinners is a big genre movie. I mean, that's a horror movie. This kind of like, that's the stuff that's being that's what audience, like that's a unbelievably creative, visceral, fun movie that is also an important movie, that kind of stuff. And so I think that you get like when we first started talking, I was like, I think that you guys are a part of a special time in streaming, right? Is because I think that movies, like studios forgot how to make movies almost completely up until like last year, right? They're barely catching up with it again now. The most important and most impressive stuff that's happening in film is with smaller projects and personal projects. And meanwhile, streaming, like I got to tell you, it was a mind-changing moment for me watching Shogun, where I'm like, this is not a story that you can tell in a movie theater. And like it's too vast, it's too big, right? And prior to then, like I think that most streaming, the way they made streaming movies was essentially like, it's TV, but, a little more expensive, as opposed to, and TV is generally like, people talking, right? This was like, I'm watching something that's like Lawrence of Arabia, only it's 10 hours long, right? And incredibly inventive, right? And so like, these are big budget things that you're working on.
Fallout is
huge budget,
especially
things.
when you get to season 2, you're like, oh my god,
it's gargantuan. But you guys specifically, are keeping the art or the artistic mindset of making these things that studios had forgotten.
Well, luckily
Like,
the streaming shows like got big enough where the budgets got bigger. Like, you know, like you couldn't do this on, I mean, you couldn't do this with Xena Warrior Princess. You just can't do that level of work.
Yeah,
You've got to do it. It's got to be done in about a week and a half because the post cost. So I love the medium. And I think Refuge, if you talk about like Refuge as a person, as a getting older, you know, in our teenage years, like is when like streaming really started to happen. So we weren't focusing on network TV as much, and we weren't focused on film. We really were in love with streaming TV, and that's where we grew up. We really grew up in these like 8-episode epic, you know, and we tend to chase bigger shows. We are definitely a studio that caters to all shows, whether it's, you know, clean up on a small show or just fix it. It's like, again, we have relationships with people that want to get the work done at a reasonable rate in the right spend region now for the tax credits, which we can have a whole conversation on that. But those bigger shows allow us to have bigger budgets, slower timelines, and we've leaned into that. I think everybody has, which is awesome. And the result is like what you're saying, like 10 hours. I'm like, why would I work on a film for 2 years when it's only an hour and a half, when I can work on like 8 to 10 hours of content? And content's like a bad word in the industry, right? But 8 to 10 hours of storytelling for a long time, and with a better budget and with a team that we're going to work with on that. I love it. I think we'd be around if we were still doing network TV shows. I think Refuge is in a good spot that, like, you know, like COVID happened and everything went remote, which worked great for us. You know, we were still doing like, you know, conference calls before that, you know, where you're like, who's talking and who's on the phone and what's your name and who are you? Like, that's just stupid. You know, like COVID hit and all of a sudden everything went to Zoom. We never went back. And it allowed us to be closer to our customers, you know, instead of having to fly down to LA.
I would argue too that
right there.
Like there are particular supervisors, particular shows that are extremely good at curating who they want to work with.
Yeah.
And guys like Jay Worth, guys like Michael Clyde, who supervised Shogun, like they're very particular about understanding who can really provide a high level of value for the budget that they bring. And, you know, one of the things that I was going to say broadly about like, what does this new media frontier mean? I think independence is everything. You know, I think that whether that's at the studio level creating films or on the visual effects side, like once you start getting into, you know, venture capital, big money backed productions, like they want to see maximum return on the dollar. And of course, like the underlying economics of a situation have to work, but you are ultimately incentivizing trying to offshore or automate that work as much as possible. And you really are taking the artistry out of the process. And, you know, I spent a number of years working over at Wyden and Kennedy with the most successful independent ad agency in history. And that was like the mantra that they lived and died by, is that independence was everything. And it could be a really big, scary world out there when you're trying to, you know, carve your path, and you've got COVID and you've got strikes and you've got AI. And, you know, Fred and I have these strategy conversations all the time about like, wow, how are we going to do this? And it's not surprising and very understandable why companies may end up selling out to venture capital interests. But I think it comes at the cost of the creative output of those companies eventually.
Right.
And
do you think that's what's
certainly
going to
not
happen with
been-
Warner Brothers? I hate to say it, put it this way, but do you think like Warner Brothers now, because they got bought at such an expense and has such amount of debt, that that's
Isn't that inevitable? Like, how do they
I mean,
turn a
it
profit?
is, right? But doesn't that trickle down to all of us too, right? Like, does that trickle down to you, where suddenly they're like, well, we're just going to try to AI slop our way out of this with debt?
No,
you know, like
it may. And I remember, you know, when we were going through the bankruptcy at DD, Ed's point was like, there's like 6 clients or 7 clients, you know, at the studio level, and that's it.
Right.
And it's true.
Right.
When you're operating a company at a massive scale and you only have very limited options of how do you find work? How do you continue to feed your own, you know, business? And I certainly think that that's where smaller scaled independent companies like Refuge actually have an advantage in this new world, because we don't have that gigantic machine that has to constantly be fed, and we can be very curated in the kinds of clients and kinds of opportunities that we want to pursue.
Yeah. I think that having that identity is incredibly valuable. business-wise, because creatively, it's like people are there to buy the goddamn donuts. Like that, the donuts have to be good. You can't just make bad donuts and expect to make money.
Like, who doesn't love a good donut, right?
This is what I'm saying. Like, because like, say you like literally, if you look at like Krispy Kreme, right? Krispy Kreme went through like they made great donuts, and everyone lined up for the donuts, and they made so much money because the donuts were so big that they're like, let's go national, and we also, because we're so big, have to change the donut recipe, and they kind of suck now, and then they collapsed. That's it. Like now they're a brand and they're good and they're fine. But when I waited in line for 3 hours in Boston when the Krispy Kreme first opened up, I was like, that's the point. And when you're watching,
I'm gonna look out the window. I don't see a line out my window. Waiting for our visual effects. 3 hours. We've got work to do, Fred.
This is it. Everyone's just like,
Krispy Kreme
give it to me, Refuge. Let's go.
It used to be that way, right? I mean, that's the term blockbuster comes from exactly that term.
People
right?
went to see things
the
because of ILM. That's what I'm saying. In 1984, I went to go see bad movies, because ILM did the visual effects, right? Because there was an identity and to what they were doing. And I think it like that has been gone for so long that it's extremely exciting to see Refuge and people of like mind coming back creatively to bring the goods. Like that's
supporting
that's
the story, right? And then just the way that Fred is talking is just like, this is my job is to help you tell a better story, right?
Yeah,
hopefully. And accepting the fact that, by the way, seeing her head blow off might not have helped the story.
Yeah, exactly.
I hope you kept that clip though.
Yeah, no, we screwed up on that one. That was like, why not?
But you know what? That was a great story, because you know what it is like so many times people get wrapped up in the thing, the one image or the one shot or the one thing, and especially in I've seen a lot of movies where it just looks like a bunch of concept art as opposed to a story. Right? Because they've got great concept artists working on creating these great images, and all they're doing is just putting the images behind you and forgetting to tell you the story.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, totally. Exactly. I wanted to roll back because we mentioned AI a couple of times, and I want to get all of us to agree that just because you use AI, it's not going to be cheaper right away. I want everybody to say that out loud, because it's kind of like the assumption that we keep getting is like, well, when we use AI and everything gets this much cheaper. And I'm like, hold on, let me raise my hand, because we can't use AI on intellectual property jobs right now. There's a lot of laws still. I think that's going to open up soon and break, and we're going to figure it out. But like, because of the security requirements and that, all my guys aren't sitting around making TikTok videos with AI. They have professional jobs. We're using professional tools. So it's hard for VFX companies to be on that cutting edge when we're not allowed to use it. But then somebody wants to turn around and say, okay, can you use it now? How much cheaper is it going to be? And it's we have to figure this out. You're going to maybe get more iterations at first. We're going to figure out some workflows. And in the end, you're probably going to get more for less in the end. But don't assume because you say you can use it. I keep reminding people, I'm like, it's still not doing the textural detail that you could do it at the resolution we deliver TV at. Like you're seeing it on LinkedIn, on your phone, on YouTube.
Yeah,
on
like
Instagram.
Things this big. Yeah, it looks great.
It looks great. It's so misleading.
Now do it at 8K.
Yeah, when you look at any show, and I'm in a medium, even just a close-up shot, you can see every texture and blemish on my face. And when I turn my head, all that shit's going to swim because AI can't keep track of that right now. It just doesn't have that capability. And that will come too. I'm not a fool to believe that they can't do it. You can see the exponential curve, but I just hate this idea that everybody's like, and then it's going to get so much cheaper. And I'm like, yeah, and then you're going to not have control and you can't give me the detailed notes that you like to give. I'm like a deal. We'll take two companies. One will just go full AI with the resolution we could do today, right? With the lack of control. And we'll see what that showrunner or director will have to back off on, right? I can't really change that one little thing. I'm stuck with it. And then I get the same guy and I say, I'm going to do the same thing, and you don't get to give me notes on it.
Yeah, exactly, dude. Can you imagine
get to the end at the same speed?
Can you imagine trying to shoot a scene live, like with cameras and people, right? And you're like, okay, so I want the camera. Like you're like, okay, so we shoot it this way. The camera comes down, dollies in, comes in close to your face, and just focuses just on her eyes as she looks to the right. And the camera does that, but it doesn't look quite right. And you're like, camera, can you do that again? It's like, no, I'm doing a wide shot. That's what I'm going to do. Or I'm the camera.
Please deposit 1,000 more credits.
Yes, please put feed money into the side of the camera. and the camera might do what you want.
Yeah. Speaking about a vending machine, that's a vending machine, man. That is a very hungry vending machine.
A slot machine, right? Because you don't
get
a
slot machine.
It's a slot machine.
Vending machine, you get something for it, and you throw it away. It's like, imagine a vending machine where you threw money in, and it doesn't give you a number to pick. It's just going to pick one. And you're like, no, I wasn't looking for condoms. I really wanted the energy bar.
Exactly. Yeah,
you know, it was very interesting. I was talking about this with Vlado because I've been seeing these YouTube videos. This guy is basically trying to get ChatGPT to count to 200.
Right? Oh, I've seen that.
Right. And it can't because it's an actually very specific issue with AI because as it starts going forward, it starts to hallucinate and it goes off and diverges, right? So that's why it can't specifically do that. It says, but you know what it's very good at is writing a program that can count to 200.
There you go. Right.
Which is, so it's so I'm not necessarily saying that, like, no, you're not going to get an actor to do that, or you're not going to get AI to do that because it's going to diverge. But you can do something else that's going to help the situation, right? Because if you understand how AI works as a tool, the problem is we've all personified AI and we think it solves things like a human does. And it is very good in convincing you that that's what it's doing, but it's not what it's good at. It's good at other things.
It does. It has that. Right. Like, I mean, if you approach AI or any AI tool as an artist, you know, then like that's like saying, okay, Dan, I need you to make make an artistic image of Abraham Lincoln, and the only thing I can give you is a box of pennies and some macaroni. Can you do it? I'll be like, yeah, it's not going to be photorealistic, and it may look more like macaroni, but it could be cool. Because I'm an artist, I might make I'm like, it's an interesting challenge. This is interesting.
Well, I think too, nobody is really, really, really accounting for the power of, the cost of compute either. You know, it's one thing to generate a frame of
we are, and we're just going to do it anyhow, and we're going to ruin the planet. That's the problem.
I remember when people were complaining about the amount of like fuel that we're using to make NFTs. It's like, oh my God, this is a nothing compared to AI.
We got to wait for the world to wake up to that because we're just not in that space right now. No one's.
All this stuff is very it's all there. It's clearly a lot of this is going to be turned into super useful tools for VFX. Like, there's all sorts of things that this will become from professional artists applying pressure and saying, we need this to be controllable in these ways. Otherwise, I can't use it.
Well, I think what's going to happen is we're going to, and the way we approach it, because we've been investing in our own tools probably since 2024. So we have an internal tool that we call Lucifer, because Lucifer is AI is the devil, and the devil's in the details. That's my tagline for this. Because artwork needs details to be right, and it's really just an internal tool that we can guide into our DCC apps, so that people aren't just doing AI over here and downloading things. It really integrates into our pipeline, and we've been building it for a while. And when the moment comes where we could use it again, we will start using that. But in the beginning, we used to say machine learning and AI because there was a clear delineation. Like, AI is trying to figure out a problem for you, and machine learning was more like training. And we've lost the term ML or machine learning, and we should start bringing it back because a lot of these things will be that way. We're now seeing that with a core model that has not been trained on everybody else's proprietary and everybody else's content. Like with a raw model, you can actually put stuff in it and it could machine learn a thing. It's not AI. It's not trying to figure out, a problem for you. It's just learning up on something. I mean, obviously, using like copycat inside a nuke, it's machine learning. We're not calling it AI. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any decisions. It's
just doing that for years, way before any of this. Yeah.
Exactly. So we got to get back to that delineation of like AI is like trying to do like a large language model kind of solving, and machine learning is really just like training a model to repeat something or kind of synthesize something, which is kind of different than what AI is really doing.
And regardless, it comes down to the operator has to be an artist who has taste. Otherwise, the machine does not work. No matter how clever the machine is, if I don't know what is good and what is bad, then it's not functional. Like, I always bring this one up where I'm like, if you had a machine where I hit a red button that can make a screenplay instantaneously, right? And it just goes boot, and it puts out whatever, LA Confidential. Here's the screenplay, right? If I don't have any taste, if I read it, I'm like boring, and I hit the red button again, this great screenplay goes away, and it puts out a shitty screenplay that I'm like, that's what I was looking for. That's my fault. Like, the one who did it wrong was me, not the machine. Like, so if you have a machine that is just randomly throwing stuff at you, like, it's still your responsibility to say, well, I have taste, so I'm going to take the thing that works. I'm going to take that and manipulate it myself and turn it into something that's functional and useful. Then all you're up against is, was that too expensive a process for me to use? Like, I have taste. I need to know if that was the pricey way to go or not the pricey way to go, because that's what the business of art is. Everybody coming in and saying, how can AI make it cheaper? You know how you can make your thing cheaper? Make some creative decisions early on.
True. Pick a lane.
Pick a lane. That's
For
it.
sure. Well, good thing is that, like, I think the immediate, although you could definitely, we've always talked about the make art button for years, right? I'm sure that's
right.
Conversation in every studio. It's like, oh, producer wants the make art button. I think we're going to see a hybrid approach for a little while. And it's like, I think probably going to give, tools like Blender a little bit more runway in the more professional environment, because you don't have to hold giant scenes and be able to render them and do this. You're just using it as a guidance engine to some AI, where you've like, all right, I got a guy, I got him running. I did my camera move. He runs past the car, slides over the hood. And now I can put that into AI and that can generate something. Like, that's where we're going to see this stuff starting to go. And I think for us, we're taking that approach as well, that once the guardrails come off and we do have 4K, support, and anything over 8-bit depth would be great for color correction, because those guys are going to complain.
You have no idea how much power it requires to create. I mean, I was talking to someone to create a 1080p 240 frames and 8 bits, which is still very not quite what we need. It uses the most expensive GPUs ever made.
Half of Paraguay the lights are off.
They're only available in data centers, right? They need hundreds of gigs of data.
That's why the model for like, let's just put AI everywhere right now. Like, every business is. I had my security cameras in my house. Like, all of a sudden they're giving me like AI reports of what the camera saw, and I was like, I just needed to know that the camera saw a person or not, and that worked fine. I don't need AI in my security cameras. Like,
they're actually finding that a lot of companies that let go of people because AI has actually not become more productive. And
we needed those guys.
Money.
Yeah, I know. But I do think like you're going to see less of the prompt and pray kind of like approach, and more of like, again, for the professionals, we'll probably be setting up scenes that are already thought out and might even have a full character with a reference sheet. I could see us in the future tagging surfaces with prompts and references, and then feeding that. Like, that's my envision of the future, is like, okay, we still want the character. We're going to put him through the thing. We're still going to animate him. We're still going to have the background, but in the background, we have a very specific reference sheet that says this background, when I render this, it's going to use this reference and this prompt to do this material. The texture of the character, we've built a 3D model. We still have it. We use it from every angle. Like, you can still do that, and then you can still speed up. And I hate to say it, but you're probably going to cut down on the amount of rendering you're going to do. You're going to cut down the render farms, alternative GPU farms. You're going to fur and simulation.
But in the like, if you have one image, if you have, let's say, 2 images that are equally awesome images, right? One was generated by your team via a bunch of AI tools, and one was generated by your team using purely like stop motion animation and all the regular old tools, right? The only thing the audience cares about at the end is this cool? Yeah. Like, they don't care how it got made. Like, and the person who decides on what it looks like in that shot is you. And you have control over every single element in that shot. And if it's cool and they think it's cool, it's because you made those decisions. Yeah. Not because you're waiting for a magic wand to come around and do that.
We have a project coming up at the end of the year, and we are definitely looking at every tool possible to make it work better and look better and be better for the showrunners. Our approach is now a digital twin of your main character or anything that you're going to go to AI with. It's great, and you could prompt some create images and get some concept art that way, and that's hurting the concept art business, of course, because now any producer or director can do concept art. But what are you going to do? I mean, they're going to go, hey, I like this, but someone has to go make that. And I want to keep us in the building of making the thing because we still can do that in a relatively, I'll say affordable. I mean, I know if you're saying, hey, we're going to do Godzilla, doing the Godzilla asset itself, okay, maybe it's not relatively affordable, but it's probably smart to do anyhow because you're making a Godzilla film, right? So if you go and make the digital twin of Godzilla, you now have full control because if any of those generation tools fail, you have that to work with. So that's where we're pushing our customers to go, is say, even if we go down these routes for these tools, we don't want to just slash the budget to a 10th. We want to, maybe see if we can shave off 5%, then 10%, then 20%, but we still have to make these things and see them from every angle. So we're kind of approaching it with a digital twin approach where you make the hero character you want, and then that can be trained to show the AI what it needs to do in other situations based on this. And that's where you can take advantage of the fact that like a lot of those models, those generation models, they do know physics. It's weird.
Sure.
They could just watch a bunch of videos on water and they're like, I know how water works. It's like the Matrix. They watch a bunch of stuff on fire. They know how fire works now. So all those physical elements that aren't copyrightable, that's what I want in my AI engine. I want something that knows how fur looks, how wet fur looks, how ears flop, how water works, how fire works, how whatever liquids or, electricity. I want it to understand all those things. And now we can do on the creative side and work.
And then you can apply all those as tools.
Right.
Like the fact that those become brushes in your set. That's great.
Yeah. Like, I mean, the thing we struggle with a lot of times is like, I mean, what's the most hardest thing? It's usually simulations because those are these micro detailed things that everybody sees every day and knows what they look like. Right. And then we have to recreate them in the computer, and those things take massive amounts of power and storage already. So the idea that stuff will get easier to do, I think that's great for the business, and those artists have to, kind of learn to adapt and figure out other ways that they can control it or just get even better. I'm still take a guy that if he could do great simulation work, I still value those guys. Like they can customize it and update it. And like, that's awesome. But do we really want to deal with every little flop on an ear of a creature that's moving, or a belly jiggle? Like that stuff's great to come along for the ride,
Sure. Yeah, well, I think it's great advice to say just be aware of where these things are going and what the tools become. Because what is valuable as a person and as an artist is you know what looks good, what looks right, and if you know what looks good and looks right, then whatever tool you're using to produce that effect, you are valuable, right? And I think that people that refuse to use these tools, refuse to learn anything about it, are going to put themselves at a disadvantage against people who are less talented than them, but know how to know what the tool can do now. I think it's it was with any movies are always a technologically based art, and we should always keep up on what the tech tools are. But we should never forget that it's art. That's what we're here for. That's why it sells. People want to see the art part. They don't care how the sausage is made. They want to see the art. And if you aren't an artist,
some people care about the sausage being made.
Well, I'm entertained by it. Yes, it's great.
No, what this is about,
ultimately, that's what it is.
This is what this is all about.
This is the sausage. Yeah, exactly.
We are. So we're running a little long. Appreciate it. I do. You guys said that it looks like the fall's going to be super busy. So does that mean that you guys are going to be super busy this fall? And is there stuff that we can expect you guys can talk about or at least hint at?
What's on the slate, Alex?
Well, the big stuff we can talk about, because there's a lot of additional seasons of some of the larger properties we've been working on.
Great.
We've been in conversation with Michael Clyde about the next season of Shogun.
Great.
We've been talking with the team on Fallout for season 3, and we just wrapped up season 2 of One Piece, and we'll be going into a 3rd season of that. This is all knockwood. Hopefully nobody, knocks us off the road along the way, but we're expecting those things to come together. And then in addition to that, we actually just hired some new executive producers for the team. So we've expanded out into other geographic regions, and we're covering Los Angeles and Vancouver and New York. So we've been very fortunate as a company that despite all the ups and downs with the unknowns that are out there, we just continue to build a stronger base and diversify the sorts of projects that we're working on, so that they're not always these big swings, hit and misses, and we have a larger number of more modestly budgeted projects that can help to stabilize the base that we built.
Awesome. Well,
Well,
that sounds like
the
you
stuff
guys are
is
super busy.
stunning across the board. You guys are incredible, absolutely incredible.
Yeah.
And I have a very important question because my daughter lives in Portland. What
Yes,
is
she
your?
does?
Yeah, like what is your? Where are you located as the location of Powell's Books is concerned? How distant are you from that?
Which one?
The only one I've been to, like the 2-story one, which is
downtown.
unbelievable. Downtown. Okay, all right. All right.
Well,
Yeah,
we're
it's
not
about
gonna-
3 hours. It's about
Go
3
ahead.
miles away, 4 miles away.
All
Yeah.
right, you may see me at some point. I'm just
Yeah,
saying.
you
Please
go down
come
Burke
by.
Side, make a right on Sandy. You'll find.
Yeah,
it.
where
Okay,
are you
good.
located with relative to Portlandia?
Yeah, exactly. Put a bird
We
on
live
it.
it
Visual
every day.
effects.
We live it. It's still so relevant. I love that show.
That show's so
I got to
funny.
do a little bit of work on that show. Apparently,
Oh my
one
God,
time
so
the
good.
sound guy decided that they shouldn't have seatbelts in the car. And apparently the cars were sponsored by Subaru, so Subaru didn't want them to not have seatbelts. Down. So we
Same.
literally digitally put seatbelts on them in an episode back in the day before
Wow.
Refuge. So but I love that show, and it literally, brought Portland to the rest of the world.
Oh, it did.
Oh,
Totally.
yeah. Such a
It's
great time,
like
man.
Portland is a character now for the rest of the United States, whether we like it
Yeah.
or not. I don't know what the character's like. It might be a
That's
little
why
bit
I brought
like
it up.
Arneson.
Oh man.
Awesome.
Amazing.
Well, that's
Oh,
very cool. Well, thank you so much. And one of our sponsors is based in Portland, which is the Kid Bash 3D guys. They're based
That's
in
right.
over
Oh,
there.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
sweet.
yeah, they're really nice guys. If you ever get together with those guys, Max and Banks are awesome, really nice people. So you should connect with them at some point.
We should connect with those guys.
yeah.
Why not?
Yeah, exactly.
Definitely.
All
This has been
right.
fun,
Well,
guys.
thank you all very, very much. That was
Thank you guys so much.
exciting.
Hey guys,
Appreciate
it's been a
it.
pleasure.
Chris, Daniel, thank you so much for spending the time with us. We love talking this stuff. So anytime, all right?
Fever dream, where tech meets the silver or LED screen. Pixels and passion are pipelines unknown. Two hosts, one show on a deadline postponed.